Welcome to the Everyday Awesome Project, where we bring you inspirational stories and game-changing strategies to live your most awesome life. Hey, superstars, welcome back. Polly here.
And Sam Pruitt. What's up, beautiful humans?
Howdy, howdy. Today is a very cool topic, and we always love these because they're timely because something's going on in our life. So we're calling this one Letting Go. Why forgiveness is never really about the other person, right?
Yes, forgiveness. Damn, it's a hot topic, lady.
Yeah, yeah. And I love our spin on this. So yeah, most people are thinking like, oh yeah, I got these people like I'm never gonna forgive them or whatever they're holding on to. But we got a little something to talk about here because it's not just about the other person and what they did and what happened and whatnot. So where are we going with
Surprise!
this? Woohoo! Yeah, and I do have the definition. Should I set the stage with the definition of forgiveness, where it comes from?
Sure.
Okay, very fun. So, forgiveness is the intentional process of releasing resentment, anger, or blame towards someone who caused harm. And guess what? Including yourself. The Latin root perdonare means to give completely without reservation. Isn't that interesting? To give completely without
That's
reservation.
interesting.
I know.
Okay.
Critically, forgiveness does not necessarily mean reconciling with the person who upset you or condoning the action. I think that's where people, get that confused is they're like, I can't forgive because like that means that I think it's okay. Mm-mm. In forgiveness, I love this. You seek the peace and understanding that come from blaming people less after they offend you and taking these offenses less personally. Right?
That all seems pretty complicated. I have a simplified version of that.
Yes, let's hear the Samantha Pruitt version.
That
Heck,
sounds like a whole lot of thinking.
too much in the brain. Okay.
So much of this is emotionally charged and emotionally driven.
Yes.
So I think of it as a release of the constriction around the heart.
Mm,
That simple.
mm,
Forgiveness is a release of the restriction around the heart.
mm. When you say that, I think of our heart space as like where our life force flows through us, and like when we're in a loving state, like life force, I don't know whether it comes from behind you, above you, through you, whatever you want to call it, but just like it flows out through your heart towards other people. Like if it's open, the door is open, as you might say, it's flowing, or it can be closed, right? You're like, oh, I close myself off to that person. And you feel it when you just like legit disconnect or you cut someone off or out of your life because you've been hurt, or the story you're telling yourself. So I get like the constriction around the heart. Say
Mhm.
more. Say more.
And it makes you feel sick.
Yeah.
It does. You might think it's directed at the other, if there's an othering part to this,
Yeah.
but it's actually internally affecting you.
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes people are pissed off at other people and they don't even know. The other person doesn't even know what the hell they're talking about is going on living their happiest life.
Totally.
Which is so crazy that that actually happens quite a bit, or to whatever degree there might be a rift or something. The one person thinks it's no big deal and the other is completely like in shock mode over there.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
restriction inside your personal heart or heart path or heart energy, if you want to look at it as energy, is
Mm-hmm.
a restriction of your body's function and your
Mm.
brain function out in the world,
Mm.
right? Not just a
Yes.
connection to other people, but the connection to yourself, a restriction.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's all going on inside. And that's
Mhm.
the big thing that I want to shine the light on
Yep.
here is like people look outside for, blaming or assigning responsibility or whatever. And the suffering, the constriction, the lack of energy, vitality, stress, whatever that person has experienced, sadness, hurt, resentment, is inside of us. It's all in internal game, right? So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It doesn't mean the other person didn't do something naughty or horrible.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about how it manifests and really
Yes.
how it becomes your problem, your very intimate personal problem.
Hmm. Hmm. And know
Woo!
that you're the source
Let's
of it.
get started. Huh?
You're ultimately the source of it. That's where
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What forgiveness is not. Oh yeah, okay. So also in addition to that, I'm in this course A Year to Live, and
Mm.
one of my Dharma teachers, Frank Ostaseki. So he's got the great book. You also have been reading it, The Five Invitations. Amazing.
Get that book. Yep.
But he says that all forgiveness is self forgiveness.
Boom.
How about them apples? All
Yeah.
forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Boom,
Yeah.
baby.
I know. I know. It's
I
like,
was like, wait, what?
that's where
So
this
that was
is.
kind of fun to unpack this last weekend when we were in course. Let's talk about what forgiveness is not, and then we will get into why Frank's saying that and sort of what that means when we talk about self
Yeah.
forgiveness. But forgiveness is not about justice.
Mm,
Okay, justice still
yeah.
needs to be served. People do things, and there needs to be justice served upon the wrath of evildoers. Hell to the yes.
Hmm.
But forgiveness is not about justice or the others, and it does not require a reconciliation, which is what you spoke about just briefly earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to reconcile with anybody. You don't actually even need to talk to them or involve them in any way, shape, or form to be able to experience forgiveness for yourself with the external world as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And justice does need to be served. No doubt about it.
And there's
Um,
severity. I just want to point to, we in a last podcast we talked about, like there's severities of things too, right?
mhm.
So the degree of insult or rejection or hurt or whatever, right? So, as we talk about this, just know that we recognize there are severities,
Mhm.
and the more sometimes severe the injustice, the hurt, the resentment,
Crime.
yeah, the crime, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
the action, the trauma, whatever was caused,
Right.
we get it's harder for that releasing, right?
Hmm.
So you may hold on to that, and the impact on you probably is equally more painful to the heart or wherever it gets stored in the body. So just know, like, we're not like piddling this, like, oh yeah, like that you guys are talking about like little tiny forgivenesses, like little white lies or something like that. Like, we get that there's severity in this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No shortage of people have been harmed in
Hmm.
many, many, many ways. The point for our conversation today is to empower them to reclaim their own healing around that and their own story or life journey related to these experiences so that they can move forward, right? That's what we're all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many people are born into causes and conditions that cause them to do horrible things.
Yeah.
We're not green lighting or glossing over that or excusing that in any way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
There's plenty of people that, yeah, it's unfortunate, right?
And
This is
there's
the world we
no
live in.
like not acknowledging something happened, right?
Right.
It's not like we're not saying like, oh, that didn't happen,
Mhm.
you should just forgive them and move on. It's like, okay, whatever happened, that happened, yes, right? And so what, okay, so what, right? And we're looking at the so what. Now what do you do? What do you hold on to, and are you going to give yourself the power to release what we're about to go into? Is like what you're holding on to, right?
And
Constriction
I
or
believe it should be the person's choice. Like, I do not believe that religions or laws or environments or groups or whatever all should ever force somebody to confront their, you know, the person who harmed them or whatever. All I know there's a lot of that kind of stuff out in the world. I personally believe that's the choice
mm-hmm.
of the victim or the person that had the experience, and people should not be put in those circumstances because of guilt or shame or forced for any particular reason to even re-enter the room, the conversation, the connection, none of that stuff. That's, to me, that is not, it's a slippery slope. It could work for some people, but
Mm-hmm.
I think forcing people to do that is not healthy. It has
And I
to be
think
their choice.
there's different ways that you can forgive, right? There's like the
Mhm.
core and then how it gets expressed, right? So that's what some of what we'll talk about is, sometimes it's, spoken to the person, sometimes it's a letter, sometimes it's phone call, sometimes it's just, they've passed away and you do it, so you're not like doing anything but your own thing, right? So
Totally.
how you choose to demonstrate or signify or ceremonially, whatever it is for you.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just like it's not really up to anybody else to determine or judge, that really wasn't serious enough. You shouldn't be holding the grudge. That didn't really hurt you. You're fine. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of us were raised this way, by the way.
I know.
Dust it off, move forward, suck it up, let it go. I can think of 1,000 things. I'm in a professional work environment right now. There's been some weird behaviors we're addressing with the humans. Humans are complicated, it
Yeah.
gets messy. But there are a few people that are of that sort of school of thought, like, hey, just let's just blow it off and move on. Yeah, no, First of all, you don't get to be the judge of that because it didn't happen to you.
Mm,
And also, the circumstances are, they need to be addressed
mm,
professionally and
mm,
appropriately and so forth, right?
mm,
So, we're not here to judge, and
mm,
nobody should be judging for another. The level of severity for people, coming to terms with this kind of stuff and tackling forgiveness themselves.
for sure, for sure. And
Hmm.
core of what we're out to is freedom. Freedom
Hmm.
for each person and that peace that comes from freeing yourself with that forgiveness. So let's get into it.
Why
Yeah.
should they forgive, though? Why should people practice forgiveness, Polly?
Hmm. I wanted to hear your answer.
Oh, I've got a bunch.
Well,
I mean, the biggest thing that comes up for me, and it's just sort of a big blanket or umbrella statement around it, is, to be able to harness those wounds, those scars for the betterment of yourself in life. So I
mhm.
look at it always, probably because I'm a physical person and I think about muscles and tissues and whatever, right? But there's a wound and it's a gaping wound and it's
Yeah.
bleeding. Trail runner, a friend of mine, just sent me a picture this morning. Literally, her lip is cut open and her face, and she just did a full on face plant on the trail.
Oh.
I'm like, no, girl. So that does happen, right? Gaping wounds
Yeah.
happen. And then the body will slowly over time heal that with scar tissue, which is remarkable. The human body is remarkable, right? All of these cells and the immune system, all these things will activate in order for that healing pathway to happen. That's true for emotional and psychological
Mm,
wounds as well.
mm,
And then it builds a stronger foundation if you choose to leverage it for that connective tissue
mm,
to move forward. So that heart can be stronger, that connective tissue around the wound can be stronger. Like maybe you get better boundaries, maybe you get better communication style, maybe you get whatever. You develop other aspects of resiliency
mm,
over that experience. And to me, that's money.
mm.
Money. That's why I'm freaking a warrior, dude. It's like so much bullshit. Okay. I mean, and you can either take it in and utilize it to your advantage,
Yeah.
or like you said earlier, you can make it your story and attach yourself to the suffering and allow that to control your
Mm.
path forward. There
Yeah.
is a choice here.
Yeah, and I think you and I, so like the visual that came up for me when I thought about, the key word in that first definition I gave you is the intentional releasing of whatever. And then you insert resentment, anger, blame, whatever. I
Yep.
look at those as like energy baggage,
Okay.
like it's energy baggage in the body. And the intentional releasing, I'm thinking of holding on to these stories of resentment is like an anchor. Like you're like, I'm just gonna lug around, an extra 20 pounds of junk, baggage with me, right? It slows you down. It releases, it reduces your vitality and your energy. And I'll tell you from a neuroscience standpoint in studying hypnosis and how the brain works and it links things up, right? So you have this experience and it gets so the mind stores literally a picture or a video of that entire thing, like a snapshot, like the moment of something happening or the video of the thing happening and experienced you, what they said, whatever. And guess what? You probably don't have the playback exactly right, just FYI. Like it's not quite quoted,
Hmm.
not quite what you think happened. So it gets that. And literally the human brain memory is fucking fascinating. So all the sensory things, whatever you smelled, heard, the music that was going on or what they said or whatever, all that gets stored around that image, right? So it's fascinating how you can, people see this definitely when you like have a strong relationship and maybe there's a favorite song you guys had and then you break up and then you hear that song and it reminds you of that person. Okay, same thing happens in these traumatic events of reliving some painful traumatic event or whatnot. So I look at the forgiveness is you like soften the edges and you soften the impact of that because guess what? Those things that have that level of emotional charge, the more charged it is, the more it's going to attract more things like it. Guess what, sister? You're going to find more people to do that stuff to you, And it's like if we can soften the edges of that blow or that resentment by forgiving it and blessing it, it's like, okay, I love what you said. It's like I grew out of it, right? Like, yeah, that's what happened, and I'm this. Like you create a neuro association, like, and I'm stronger. I'm a boundaries boss. I'm not a doormat anymore, or I speak my truth, or whatever. Like you come out of that But the next time the brain goes down that pathway of something happening, like, and I have good boundaries, and I'm, I speak for up for myself, and I whatever, so you can rewire that when it gets stuck and stored as an image or a movie, and we just fester it. It's like, it just that anchor and that weight. So just wanted to.
And then you can see how, because you have an anger or resentment, a grudge, something you're holding against another, it doesn't have to be traumatic. It can be, an argument or something on a smaller scale, right? But how that has an energy to it. And then I'm pissed off, okay, because I've got a spark of that energy left from the argument this morning or the guy, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And then I move around in the world the rest of the day with that energy vibration,
Yeah.
anger, we'll call it in this case, or
Yeah.
it could be sadness, it could be hurt, whatever. And I kind of start looking at that through the lens of that and attracting that. So now I'm pissed off at the barista who screwed up my drink. And now I'm pissed off at the guy who cut me off as I'm driving down the road. And now I'm just pissed off at everything.
Yeah.
Right. I'm carrying around that emotional charge, that energetic emotional charge called anger with me for the rest of the day. And I might take it out on my child or my spouse or, whatever, perfect strangers. Again, the barista, is just there trying to make me the best coffee ever. So, like, having awareness is such a big part of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what's happening is like you've put on a set of glasses, like people are this way, whatever. That
Mm-hmm.
situation
Mm-hmm.
caused a set of glasses to come on. You created a paradigm out of a, bad experience that could have been a one off, could have
Mm-hmm.
just been like one off. And if you let it go, it's like, nope, that's not the way the world is and people are. Nope, that's just the way that person is and they were then. And I walked into it and it was a bad moment or whatever. Like, nope, nope, that's the way that the world is and people are. And so you go out in the world and you're like, who else is like this? Oh, you're like this, and then you just, ah, you're just going to bring more to you. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
stop it.
Stop
Stop it.
that.
Stop it.
Stop that. I wrote a little note about PTG, which is post traumatic growth. I feel like we mentioned this in another podcast, post traumatic growth, right? So it's the question posed all the time in research studies about why some people who have a really negative experience and are harmed in some way, physically, emotionally, otherwise, what do they do with it? And why do some people experience, depression, anxiety, and all these other negative repercussions and stay kind of stuck in that, and others do not? They find growth out of it. They create meaning and purpose connected to the thing, the incident, we'll just call it. They discover their own inner strength through the process of overcoming. I love that. They build a deeper connection to others through the support that they might be connecting to in order to get their healing accomplished and their communication happening. They build resiliency by reframing, adapting, growing, and then ultimately expressing freedom through the experience, which is what I alluded to earlier.
Boy,
Post
as you put all those
traumatic
together,
growth.
post I saw like the rebuilding of the human and like they're stronger because of it,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally stronger, emotionally more astute, resilient.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so I have another question. I have so many questions.
Today's the day for questions. Speak up, class. Are you ready?
This was one of the questions we were asked in our workshop this weekend.
Mm.
Ooh. Okay. So, one of the questions was, what gets you in the way of forgiving others? What gets you, and we are suggesting people should journal this if they want to work on forgiveness. So, one of the questions is, what gets in the way of you forgiving others?
Well, you and I have trouble answering these because we're like, fuck that, let that shit go. But what would,
Well,
right?
these are some of the things that came up.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I was like, I don't know if I'm pissed off at anybody right now. I mean, I have spent many years, though, pissed off, I'm going to say. But most of those incidents or situations, I would generally turn against myself. And we'll get into that self forgiveness piece the second half. That was my magic trick.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's not be doing that. What gets in the way of forgiving others? Wanting justice or the other person to have remorse. Lots of people cling to that.
Suffering. You need to suffer over there.
Right. So justice still needs to be served in many instances. Of course it does. And you have to have a greater belief in the laws of all of that, or the other person having resource. remorse. You're not responsible, and you can never control how the other person is going to respond. That's their damn job. Okay, you need to just be all up in your own business.
Yeah.
um, Attachment, so needing of attachment or
Mm.
fear of rejection.
Mm.
So, if I don't forgive you, or if I do forgive you, will I be rejected? Will we still have an attachment bond? All of those, that's just
Mm.
primal shit right there.
Wow.
Super primal stuff. And you can see
Wow.
why a lot of us just go, you know,
Interesting.
and it can
Yeah.
be positive or negative, which I think is super interesting too, right? Like, so if I do forgive you, then I can be attached to you again and we can be back together. I'll be
Mm.
safe.
Mm.
That attachment will come back in.
Mhm.
If I don't,
Mm.
then I'm rejecting you before you reject me. Right. There's
Mm.
this whole dynamic that
Mm.
can be at play there. I do think, unfortunately, that's a big one for people because it's
Yeah.
so primal,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Fear. And fear is interesting because sometimes when people are angry, they feel safe in the anger.
Mm.
Like, if I stay angry, I'm actually in control of this, you motherfucker. And I'm in control here and I'm the boss of this. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to be telling you how this is going to go. And I'm going to be trapped in that.
Well, on the emotional ladder, right? So if we look at, disempowered is so the disempowered states of like depression, helplessness, hopelessness, whatever, like the low, low, low energy states, moving up the ladder, if you look at the ladder of emotional,
Regulation.
yeah, so the highest would be like joy and bliss, whatever. We're at the very bottom stages. Anger is a higher state. So it's why we get a little bit of power back by being in anger as opposed to being disempowered. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually that person starting to help themselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Problem is when people get stuck there.
Stuck there. Nope. No, don't park.
We're
That's
not
not a
big on getting
parking.
stuck
It's not,
anywhere. Don't
anger's not a
park your car
parking
there.
space. No, it's a drive-through. No, it's a drive-through. Keep going.
We already mentioned this several times. Confusing forgiveness with reconciliation.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not the same thing. You don't need to reconcile with anybody.
True.
Okay.
True.
Rumination of the past. Dang, lots of people do this. This is fascinating. I'm sure I do it too.
Yeah.
The problem with ruminating over and over and over about, what transpired and reliving it, and what if they said this, and what if I'd done that, and blah, 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 and all the things,
Yeah.
is you make zero room. You allow zero room or
Uh,
oxygen
yeah.
in the thoughts and in the brain for moving forward. You
Yeah.
just continue to circle the
Spiral.
wagons,
Yep.
circle the wagons, looking for something that could have, should have, maybe will be different.
Mhm.
There's no
I
moving
have
out of
not
that.
seen a person successful yet change the past. Haven't seen it.
I mean, I don't know. That would be pretty magical.
Haven't seen it. So you might just want to go, okay, that is what happened. All
Yeah.
right. And what's so.
And what's so interesting about that is what something you said a few minutes ago is lots of people actually don't. Okay. I was explaining this to someone the other day. I won't give details, but like how the other experienced it is not the same as how I'm experiencing it anyway. Okay,
Right.
I'm experiencing it through all of my belief systems, past experiences, everything I bring to the table that's me right now, today, in
Yeah.
this moment, at this age, blah, blah, blah. And that person experienced it completely different, of course, through their
Totally.
own lens
Yeah.
and experience and values, et cetera, et cetera. So they're not even the same thing.
Yeah. I had two experiences just now that you're saying this. I'm like, oh wow, I bet you there's people out there that are thinking that I need to be or I should be forgiven. And I didn't even like one guy was like, hey, you did this and that. I was like, oh wow, that was even a thing. Like so and there was no malicious intent or whatever, but like unless you had brought it to me, I was nonplussed. Like I didn't even see it, right? Like it was not
Right.
even my realm of possibility. And the same with the second one. She was like, hey, I think this is out of whack and this and that. And I was like, okay, you see that? I don't see that. Okay. And she's like, you don't see that? I'm like, I don't see it that way. And so, we could just be going around in our own bubbles and own worlds. So how
Because we pretty much are.
because guess what? This brain,
Bubble boy.
each brain is just uniquely carved of our experiences. So how we see the world, what's happened to us in our lifetime, and where we grew up, and all that stuff. Like that's the lens we're filtering all of this stuff called life through. And like you said, no two people are going to see the exact same thing the same way. One person has a completely different reaction than the other one. So that's where she and I were looking at this. Like, I don't see it. She's like, you don't see that? I'm like, I could see why you see that, but I don't see that. You know?
Which leads to one of the things, and this did ring true for me in terms of forgiveness when I started to do my own work around it. Uh, I have this idea that I need to understand what were they thinking, or like what was the logic or
Yeah.
reasoning, like why did they do the thing. I'll just use a parent example without a lot of details, like why did my parents say XYZ at a certain junction in my life that was a critical make or break moment for me? Why did they choose this direction to say these things and do these things? Did they not understand the impact it would have on me? What the hell were they thinking, kind of thing? And I was
Yeah.
like, well, how the hell am I ever going to know? First of all, they're not with us anymore. They've
Right?
moved on.
And
But
they won't
also,
remember. Yeah.
no. And why should I get attached to that?
Yeah.
How does that serve me in any way, shape, or form today?
Well, the brain is trying to go, well, maybe if they didn't mean it, then I could let them off that. You know, like it's looking for a way to justify instead
Or
of just forget.
excuse?
Yeah, excuse or,
Mhm.
oh, that less offense. You know, it's like a less offensive what they did or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the ego, basically. I
Yeah. And
need to know why.
there's
I
a
gotta
shortcut.
know.
Yeah, there's a shortcut. Just skip the why, you know.
If you
But
could just call me. Hey, remember that thing that happened 40 years ago? Let's talk about it. What the hell? I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh my
totally.
God. Okay, so do you have anything to add to that? What gets in the way of
For
people forgiving others,
forgiving.
or you, if you want
Yeah.
to give yourself as any?
The
Why
thing
is it
I
hard to
would
forgive others?
Well, I think the thing I would add, maybe, and I think, you know, if I say this out loud or if it's occurred to me, I'm probably doing it or have done it. So we'll see. But
Spicy.
what wants to come out is we get to be a victim. We get to blame someone else for how we're feeling. We get to, you know, be pissed off. We get to, you know, whatever, justify, you know, pulling away from that person or whatever it is, you know. So it gives us a rationalization for our lack of, you know, closure and, you know, whatever. And not to say that it's intelligent or, you know, emotionally mature and helpful for you. I'm just saying that could be one of the reasons is either intentionally or unintentionally staying in a victim state or like, you know, getting, you know, what I say is, there's a payoff to behavior, right? Pros and cons, right? So somebody's getting some payoff by being that way, right? Whether they're conscious of it or unconscious of it, there's a payoff. So,
Well, if I stay stuck in this story,
yeah,
it's a lot less work for me. I really
exactly.
don't have to get busy sorting my own shit out because I can just keep pointing to Thelma and Louise over here who've done me wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's holding me back, blah blah blah.
And I love how I don't love, but I see it a lot. Let me say that differently. I see it a lot where people justify playing small for a
Hmm.
lot of years, months, years of their life because of something that happened so long ago. It's like, can you even remember who you were then? Like, can you, like, how young were you? Right? Kind of thing. But they
Hmm.
justify the plateau or where they are in their life because of that thing and point to it like, well, it can't be that. It's like, that's not here now. They're not here now. What, you know? So,
Yeah, yeah.
that's,
Well, I'm also doing a lot of study on trauma and stuff like that, and there's some really interesting things around the brain and the brain forming during those moments and why things sort of get trapped. And that is a whole other science-based, like, whoa, dude. But this part that we're talking about, so that's a real thing in brain development itself and where things start to go terribly wrong and need to be healed. But like for us, this part that we're just speaking about in this ego attachment to, this is part of my identity or my story.
mm.
And I want to continue to carry it with me on my back because, like you said, in some way, shape, or form, it's serving me.
Well,
By the
and I
way,
do
the serving could be it's protecting me from getting close to other people.
all sorts of things. Yeah. Well,
I
and
mean,
I
there's
just,
so many things that it can be getting in the freaking way of.
and I'm so glad you brought up what you brought up because I hadn't distinguished that because you're absolutely right. There can be conscious and subconscious, right? So a person could be conscious that they're choosing it, and someone could be choosing it subconsciously, and it's like this, you know, torpedo behind them, and it's like killing off relationships, it's killing off possibilities or behavior that could serve them. Because it's rooted in the subconscious out of a protection, out of something broke in a relationship and a dynamic, and their brain solved it by like becoming a new way, and it's now a part of their identity or whatnot. So you're
Mm.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's big work.
Ah, dang it.
Okay,
Dang it.
let's talk about this next question. Are you ready?
Let's go.
What's standing in the way of you forgiving yourself?
Mm,
Journal question number 2. What is standing in the
mm,
way of you forgiving yourself? I was like, what is he talking
yeah.
about?
Well, first thing you have to look at is there's something to forgive, and sometimes we just like hide it from ourselves. I think I've got a lot of that, bullshit going on over here. So like,
Well, listen, once we started getting into this, and of course, I was like, oh, obviously, like, hello. Who the hell doesn't have this shit? But we are so constantly like thinking of the other and the
mm,
outer
yeah,
experience of our lives, right? But
yeah,
then it was like, oh my Lord. Literally, I could just
mm,
have all day long journaled about this
mm,
because that's again another coping mechanism, right? But it's
mm,
so much easier, especially when you're young, to
mm,
develop this survival skill of turning it against yourself. It's a lot easier for me to take this out on me than it would be to tell you or to act out towards you and be rejected or
yeah,
not be cared for or not be loved or not be fill in the thousand blanks, right?
mm,
So if I can just keep this all swirling inside me and point the finger, and really it's can be quite self-abuse, in
mm.
all myriad ways, shapes, and forms that this can come out for us. But it's intense.
Well, and I want to layer a story in here, and I don't
Okay.
even have like I can't say I've said this story out loud, maybe more than once the whole thing, so it may come out just like how it's going to come out. But there's a dimension in this that I'm resonating with what you're talking about, and that is I'm seeing how I'll have times, and I'm just going to speak who it's, the relationship that it's about, just so it's very, apparent. It's not like some fictitious relationship. So my relationship with my mom, there will be things that happen between her and I will get angry. Frustrated, angry are usually the ones, bored, or, just impatient. Those are kind of my like go-tos, if you will. Those are my triad. But the one that I like the least of myself is the anger.
Mm.
Because my identity is tied. Like I have this, good person identity, like with the halo or whatever, like treat people how you want to be treated and love them and stuff. So like anger does not show up in that same identity. And I had my friend was on our last podcast, and she helped me see like that's valid. Like having that anger is valid. Like that person is whatever they're doing. Like anger, okay. Like you had a angry moment, whatever you got angry, felt anger, whatever it is. Acknowledge that, right? I would like
Well deserved pissed offness.
suffering. Yeah. Well, so
Piss
what?
offery.
So what the loop for me looked like when we were talking about the self forgiveness is I would immediately go to, I shouldn't be getting angry. I should know better
Um,
than this. So
Making
that's where I just
yourself wrong for even
yes,
having the emotion.
motion exactly. So I
See?
would shortcut this so fast. It was like, why? It used to be right. Like so when I used to blame before I knew that it was I'm the one that's doing it. I would say she makes me so angry. I hate that she makes me angry. And then I'm
Mm.
like, I hate that I get so angry. And I would put all this like self abuse towards myself. Like I hate being angry, and then I would just create all this distant whatever. And once I knew that I was the one that was doing it, I couldn't blame her for it. It was like, no, it's an inside job, my friend. But ooh, this has only come to be a new spotlight in my personal growth of like, wow, can I forgive myself that I get angry?
Mm-hmm.
Can I forgive
Exactly.
myself that I have moments that I get angry, staying in an angry state or being an angry person or an attitude where people don't want to be around you because you're angry all the time? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go off the deep end, but yeah, in a lifetime, it's okay to be angry. Yeah, I had it that it wasn't, right?
Well, if you think about this is where your mind is like, what the fuck? Like if you did like a life inventory, which is part of kind of what we're doing. But in this instance, that's not at all what we were assigned to do this in this class. But my mind immediately went to like a whole life trajectory because that's where my lens is in this
Mm,
course is like, oh, I
mm,
need to kind of go back to the beginning and whatever.
mm,
So if you think about like being a young child and just trying to survive in the environment, whatever it is, okay, even if everything is freaking cupcakes and rainbows and shit, okay, stuff is going on in that little brain as it is
mhm,
forming and as
mhm,
you're trying to bump and
mhm,
bruise your way through life, right? And then you get into ages where maybe you start to take some form
Mm.
of self abuse. That could be through, I mean, everybody's got all kinds of things, but it could be with food, it could be relationships, it could be
Take your
physical abuse
punishment.
upon yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
a form of any kind of self beating or self punishment. And it comes in so many shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot in childhood behavior when the child is really frustrated or
Mm.
sad or can't express or feels rejected.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it outwardly being projected.
Yeah.
And then and it's socially unacceptable by parents and other people in society. So don't get me started on that. Kids just trying to freaking get these feelings out, right? And
Mhm.
then as a, maybe teen, it can be really dangerous behaviors.
Mm.
It can be
Mm.
things where you're putting yourself in dangerous situations because of it. I
Mm.
totally did that.
Mm.
eh, Big time. And then in adulthood, where we're still using these behaviors that are self wounding,
Mm.
and that unpacking that and being able to be honest about it
Mm.
and understand that you were doing your best at that time and not able to operate, you didn't have the skills, you didn't know how to communicate, whatever it was, you could not get it up and out, right? So you internalized it. Carrying that into your adult life, that kind of self abuse is such a burden
Mm.
and such a load.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, girl, we got to let that shit out. And it
Yeah.
freaking blew my mind even thinking about it because I hadn't really thought of it in a way that, hey, I need to forgive myself
Mm.
for these things, these times in my life where I acted that way towards myself.
Mm.
I just saw it as survival, right?
Yeah.
But I now, as a grown ass adult woman and witnessing, my own friends, family, or whatever, still suffering in these ways and trying to understand their behaviors, it makes so much more sense for me going,
Mm.
wow, I too need to forgive myself. I'm trying to help them forgive themselves and
Mm.
develop their self worth so they can overcome these things and move through them. But I need to do the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
mean, what the hell?
Yeah. Teacher in the
Because I've
classroom.
never really done that.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought, okay, how can I do that? And there are some ideas around how to do that and start
Yeah.
unpacking it. But first, you have to just look at it for
Yeah.
reality.
Well, and I think too, there's a, I don't know how we haven't studied it, but there's like some sort of trend line when you are able to achieve and overcome difficult things, right? Like
Yep.
you're able to push yourself, you're able to, whatever, like that takes something, a level, whatever. And you're not always, like, I think, like, I think if you had people do some of the workouts you do to yourself, they would be like, what are you trying to kill me here? Kind of moment, right? But you see it as like, Yahoo, right? So,
Mhm.
like, that fine line of like pushing yourself to edges. And I mean, the body breakdown that I've seen you take, in these races and just challenges you do, it's like, um, there's a beautiful thread of growth and self-compassion and stuff, but if you looked at it from the outside, you'd be like, that person's punishing themselves, right? And there's this line between like how you treat yourself with that and like loving yourself with kindness, and I wonder too, I think about Kristen Neff has a great she's been studying self-forgiveness and has a great several great TED Talks out there and books. She says that self-compassion is the pathway to self-forgiveness, right? That's one of her
Mhm.
kind of core tenets. And I think sometimes when you have this like hard chargingness, like got to get things done, being self-compassionate feels like softness and weakness, right? And it's like, how can those two exist? But I think there
How
is,
can they exist together?
yeah, like how can I push
Mhm.
myself for achievement and like 50 miles and 100 miles and stuff like that and be compassionate? It's this like cool
People do this with
dance.
their careers.
Mm.
They do it with making money. They
Mm.
do it with any and all things around trying to be bigger, be better, outperform, out
Mhm.
whatever,
Their
right? They
potential. Yeah,
they
this
rise
potential.
exactly. There
Yeah.
can be a rising to something really unbelievable, slightly unbelievable. I mean, in many cases, you see people and you're like, what in the hell? How are they
Whoa.
getting that done? Right.
Right.
But how can you, yes, marry that also with compassion?
Yeah.
And it's paying attention when you're making the choices and doing the things how does it actually make me feel?
Mm.
I have been in situations where I'm like, yeah, no, I couldn't feel more alive and more like stoked. And then I've had others where I'm like, what the hell? This is just make this stop.
That's an
Oh, and of
ass
course I have
kissing.
stopped. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have stopped where it's like, okay, this is ludicrous.
Yeah.
I need to just pull the plug on this. This is not fun anymore. That's what
Hmm.
I say. But it's what I'm really saying is this is no longer good for me.
Yeah.
Right. I say it's no longer fun, which is also a thing, but I'm saying it's no longer good for me. I want to throw out a couple other ideas here on why people have a hard time forgiving themselves. They let it define themselves. We already talked about
Mm.
that. They make it their story. Religious or cultural indoctrination. Damn, see, you and
We
I
don't
don't think we
have
have
that.
that
Yeah.
because, if we have, we've cleared it. But a lot of people out there do. I'm a
Sinner,
little
sinner,
surprised
sinner.
to continuously learn to
Yeah.
what extent. And
Yeah.
it can be their family's belief systems, it can be their religious belief systems, it can be their schooling, it can be whatever environment they're hanging out in where
Mm-hmm.
this is a thing.
I know.
And that repeated guilt and shame and you're bad and all that stuff. I mean, I'm working with women in this group that are in their 70s and they're still carrying this around. They want to free themselves from this, It's really painful.
Mm. It's so, yeah, no, I don't even know what to say about it because you can't have someone not choose their religion. It's like, I don't know how you reconcile this with some of the fundamental things that some religious bodies have, like the core of like being
Well,
sinners
you
and,
fucking need to question it.
yeah,
That this is not a truth.
yeah.
Why would everybody just being born and existing be a bad person and a guilty person? And who made this shit
And you
up?
and I are like
Sorry.
180 on the other side. We're like, oh no, you came in as stardust and you're freaking amazing. And like, you just need to be that. And like, Leo, shine it, baby, right? It's like, it's
And
none of,
even if you're a total nutter and have done crazy things, you still deserve, in my opinion,
yes.
redemption and peace and
Absolutely.
all the things. Yeah,
And you're
anyway,
not always
ugh,
vying for it. That thing in some religions is like you're always vying for like
keep
forgiveness
working
and
for it. Keep stacking those coins in the
yep.
corner
By the
till you
time
get
you get
enough.
to because there's going to be pearly gates, and then they're going to judge you, and then you're going to know if you did all that stuff right, and if you didn't, like ship, get out, exit, stage left, down to hell. Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
So shame and guilt, people are trapped in that. A broken belief system about their self worth.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, when I was younger, going through all of that, that's what was at the root of it, right? Is I could not connect to who I was, my own identity, my family identity, society, whatever all the things were. So at the core of that was like, who the hell am I and what am I worth anyway? Right.
Mm.
So you get into these patterns of making bad choices, attracting more bad choices, and then they compound, right? So that broken
Yeah.
internal
It must be me.
message.
It must be my fault. They did it. Of course they would do this. Yeah. I made them do it, or yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or this is what I deserve.
Mm.
Oh, all that kind of crazy shit. Oh, hell no.
Yuck. Yuck.
Okay.
Yuck. Yuck.
And that's of course a cycle of self-abuse, which we already talked about.
Mm. So the
So
one
what are the
thing
lessons and learnings from that little can of
I
whoop
know. Well,
ass?
the only thing I just wanted to like layer in there as we were talking about Kristen Neff and the self-compassion to self-kindness is like when I was talking about you and your races and stuff like that looks like punishment and you're whatever. And it's like, so self-compassion is a state of kindness to oneself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to say that, and like just saying that makes me happy. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as a former eating disorder person and who spent many years of not being kind to herself and mentally, physically, all of that, the idea of stepping into self compassion was like so refreshing. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, you can actually like forgive yourself and like have compassion and just like the holding of yourself. It's such a sweet word and it's such a sweet notion. Like, I don't know, Kristen Neff's work around so I did a whole series, this was maybe like 10 years ago, on all the selves. Like I studied self-compassion, self-trust, self-forget, and all this stuff, and I did all these deep dives into it, and it was like they're so sweet when we really honor what all of that turn towards ourself can do in terms of personal transformation. I would say compassion is one of the yummiest, softest places to start because I think most people understand and can create kindness to others, whether it's a flower, a baby, nature,
Yes, and forgiveness of
human
others
beings,
before
right?
themselves also.
And it's like you have that capacity, and it's
Hmm.
and you know, like you inherently know how to just love and be kind and want good things for people, right? Things, whatever. And it's like, hey, over here, you, yeah, right. It's actually, it's a sweet one. So I just wanted to double click on that for a minute.
I wrote down a few of my own thoughts. We need to show mercy on our past selves.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
right.
hello.
I know.
Shows, even what I did yesterday. I'm sure I fucked up all kinds of things. I don't know. I mean, I was giving it a try. I was showing up to things.
Doing the best I could at the
I
moment.
don't really know that it was that great
Totally.
based on what I had to offer yesterday.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what I did.
That's
Okay.
how it.
And
That's all.
today,
Thank you. Good night.
exactly. Hopefully, I'm doing a little bit better today. But am I? I mean, exactly. Like, you know, all things change, all things are impermanence.
Mm,
Okay, like the foundational Buddhist
mm,
truth, all things are impermanent, right?
mm,
Okay, everything is always changing,
mm.
24/7, all things. Okay, that's just the nature of life, including me.
Yeah.
An hour ago, I was laying on my chair like a slob after my workout. I was just all, oh, I
Oh,
told you I totally bonked.
yeah.
I had no energy. I was like, we're going to have a podcast. What are we going to talk about? I mean, I just was like on another planet. And an hour later, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm great. I mean,
Calories.
so,
Whew, look at that. Oh.
but like all things are always changing
Yeah.
and be so open to that because there's so much freedom in that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so liberating to me
Mm,
to
mm,
think that, hey, the next minute it can all be different yet again. Yes, that's a little bit scary sometimes, but it's so incredibly empowering,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
And I'd say that kind of goes back to as we started this, that the idea of the energy baggage or the anchor, and so if we have, we're not forgiving ourselves, we're just holding on to, like yesterday, and we're just ruminating on it. It's like, okay, just pick up that weight and just carry it around through the day. How's that working for you? Like, can't go into the
Kind of
meeting.
like CrossFit, where we gotta we grab those big bags and walk around and put it on your shoulder and go and
Yeah, that workout, leave it at the gym. All right, on you go, take the growth,
drop
man.
the weights at the gym. People leave them in the gym.
Yes, yes, be your best self, beautiful self. Sprinkle that pixie dust out there, go forth. Yes.
All right, I got what else? Yeah, we're simply doing our best with the tools we have at the time. Hello, that's just like intellectually, we should all recognize that that's a real thing. Okay. And as we know better, we can do better.
And
Okay.
we're imperfect human beings on this planet, and we're gonna F it up sometimes. And I think it's just about cleaning it up. When I was telling you about this scenario this past week where somebody's like, "Hey, you did this, and this is the impact over here," and I was like, "Wow, I didn't even okay." And then he's like, "I think you should do this," and I was like, "Okay," and it wasn't like against my morals or something. I was like, "Well, if that would make you feel better, sure." Like I still couldn't see it. I was like, wow, I was like, absolutely. Yep, I will say that. Yep, I will call that person and clean that up. You got it, And so it's like,
Hmm.
just get into it. Like, get on it, get over it, move on. Like the
Well, you were able
faster.
to do that without making right and wrong. But I'm right and you're wrong and blah, 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 and all these things. You're just like, okay, whatever, like, cool. At
And
least I have the knowledge and communication and now I can do it differently.
yeah, and definitely, I have definitely, that's a light situation. We talked about the severity and stuff. So I have definitely had times when I knew and I needed to own something, right? And so it's heavier and harder, and like, yeah, there's like a bigger impact. Like he was like, oh yeah, there's an impact because of it. And it wasn't like grade 10, blow up, time bomb in his life or something like that. But, especially in intimate relationships, we can fuck those up pretty good, and it's like, all right,
Yeah.
clean it up. And I know when those need to happen too, right? And like, I can't tell you, in last year's communication course, one of the things that I saw, and this guy, like he and I, that I said something, I was helping him with somebody else that he was having. There was like this triangle, like I said this, and he was like, "Oh, that made this, whatever." It's hard to explain, but, and I said, "Well, I think there's a conversation over there too, And he was just texting with that person. I said, "Yeah, but and we learned so much in being in communication." So he was texting with me, and I was like, "Blah." hello, let's get on the phone, like, let's talk about this, clear this up. This is not a text moment, right? And he's like, wow, I'm so grateful that we talked because I wasn't misinterpreting. And I was like, yep. I was like, love and affinity, brother. That's all I got for you. That's all I got for you. There's nothing over here. It's all good, right? And I said, go clean it up over there too. Like, love and affinity flowing, love and affinity flowing.
So people need to have love and affinity with themselves. And I know I'm slightly obsessed with this whole love letter concept I've been talking about all year, but like, write yourself a freaking love letter. And I actually wrote a couple paragraphs very quickly because they just like flow out of me now. And I'm always writing to dear sister Sam or little sister Sam or whatever. I think of myself as like the younger sister when I speak to myself with that open love and compassion. Like, how would I say this if it were my little sister? That kind of thing. But people can do it however the hell they want to do it. But you need to be having conversations with yourself. So if you're going to do them on paper, if you're going to do them with another to express, but it's a lot more intimate and, usually easier to have these conversations with yourself, you know,
Yeah.
with no judgment.
You're like, hey,
write that shit down and burn it, throw it away, keep it, do whatever you want to do. But
cry
like,
it out. Yeah. Scream it out, whatever,
exactly.
like I had I was on a run and I had this moment. I was like, oh, dang, and I was forgiving myself and I had this big cry moment. I just like paused on the trail and just like cried for the not taking good care of myself in those moments, not standing up for myself. I was like, and then I was like, right? Just
Those are the best when Mother Nature just opens up for you like that. Because I know you were outside somewhere. You weren't on a treadmill at the gym with 10 people around
nope,
you.
nope.
And all of a sudden it's like pop.
Yeah.
And Mother Nature goes, come here, I got that.
Totally.
I got that. I got that.
Super present how the movement created it and the thinking and what I was listening to right before that. And just like it was a perfect moment, and being a little tired from running, it's like, I got nothing. And then it was like, like forgive, right? It was beautiful. Beautiful. And like you said, like it can be a memo, it can be a letter to somebody, it can be a phone call, it can be a text, just talking to yourself, whatever format works for you. Mine was just a blurt. Blurt. A burp.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we need to wrap it up. You got a one thing? You want my one thing?
Yeah, give me your one thing first.
I want people to ask themselves a simple question. It's not simple. When I say that, it's not simple at all, right? I wish it were simple. Do you deserve? This is me asking myself or you asking yourself. So this is around self-forgiveness. Do you deserve health, happiness, peace, love, self-compassion? Do you deserve these things? Because if you do, you deserve forgiveness. And if you said no, you better call me ASAP. We'll talk about it.
Stop listening. No, we won't have you over there beating yourself up. I would say mine is we didn't go much into the idea of peace and how I would say lack of forgiveness is lack of peace, like a state of peace. So I would say, what is it costing you, or what is the payoff you're getting by not forgiving yourself or someone else? And is it worth it? Right? Like really looking at, is it worth that? Or do you recognize that, guess what? You're the one that's got the key and is in the suffering sack, so set yourself free. So I would say, what's the value of peace to you? And I one of the things I feel like with this year to live that we've been studying is I ain't got time for all the baggage, like, whoop, gotta go, moving on, dropping baggage, like, nope, that emotion doesn't serve me. Okay, next, right? Just like when that gal told me that scenario, I was like, oh, you see that and that bothers you? Okay, well, let's clean it up because we got places to go, like, let's keep moving. Let's not hang out here and just blah, blah, no spinning, can't change the past, whatever. Like, life is now and now and now. And if there's something from, like you said, decades ago, like, what's that costing you in the now? So, like, settle up and like, let's go.
Settle up. That's a good one.
All right, what do we want to finally close with our secret sauce?
Are we closing?
Yeah.
How your life feels, people. How your life feels is more important than how it looks. You know that by now.
Yes. And every day is your opportunity to find your awesome.
See you next.